All right, we are live on X Spaces. Your comments are welcome. Facebook, YouTube, and of course on myjoyonline.com. On the show today, my guest is the Member of Parliament for Damongo in the Savannah region, Samuel Abujinapo. We are discussing a variety of issues here on the program. But let's start from the health front, because this is something that is, putting a lot of people in health risks. Now, patients seeking medical care are facing significant challenges as the government deployment of police officers to protect nurses and midwives who have chosen to defy their union strike has created a chaotic situation in healthcare delivery. The Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association withdrawn outpatient and emergency services today due to government failure to implement agreed upon conditions of service. With the police presence, some nurses and midwives have opted to work in, but the situation remains tense. Now, patients are caught in the middle, struggling to access essential healthcare services. The union initiated industrial action due to government failure to implement what they have agreed upon last year. Now, here is General Secretary David Tinkrine making a point before they started this action this morning.
We can use these old-fashioned methods to derail our progress. It shows clearly that they don't put premium on the life of the good people of Ghana, and they don't respect nurses and midwives in Ghana. And we'll show them where power lies. Look, the document has been signed by the employer, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, and the union. What is left is approval from the Minister for Finance. And it's been sitting on the desk of the Minister for Finance. If it had not been signed, why would it be on the desk of the Minister for Finance?
Right. So this morning, some people went to some of the hospitals. I want to bring you some of those who went to seek medical care in some of the hospitals across the country. Konfanoti Teaching Hospital, for example, and of course the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, where the nurses were not at post, especially Kumasi Konfanoti Teaching Hospital. So how is the exercise going so far? Is there any way government is seeking to resolve whatever difference that exists between the employer and the employee? David Tinkrine is the General Secretary of the Nurses and Midwives Association of Ghana, and he joins me via Zoom. David, so is almost some few hours into the action you've undertaken, our OPD out, emergency cases also out. How is it going for your members?
All right. Good afternoon to you and your viewers, and good afternoon to all nurses and midwives in Ghana. Indeed, we are very much satisfied with the patronage. Yesterday, I made it clear to you that tactic that the employer was seeking to put across will not work. And sometimes we think that Ghana is Accra, right? Move to other areas. I have followed up keenly, and almost all hospitals, OPDs, and emergency areas are shut down. Go to Tamale Teaching Hospital, Damongo. Several of these hospitals, OPDs, and emergency services have shut down. And we are very much on course. And I believe that it's very unfortunate we have to come to this far. I have said that life is so important, it's so precious, and there's no need to see to the demise of anybody. But of course, our condition of service is of importance to us. Oftentimes, nurses are looked down upon, and our services are not being taken into consideration. For instance, what people don't know is that the health continuum revolve around midwifery and nursing services. And let's see what happens in a few hours. My heart is aching because I don't think Ghanaians deserve this. But the intransigent push-string and the belligerent nature and the intimidation that is being deployed by the sector ministry is what has brought us to this far. And we are on course. And we want to thank all nurses and midwives, especially even those who are not our members. Yes, I have picked signals that almost where some of the breakaway groups are even dominant, they defiled their leaders and they've participated, because the nurses have realized that is about their future that is in question, and not the rhetorics that just being put around.
The government insists that you are rather forcing some of your members who are not in tune with this exercise to go back to it. The reason why they are involving the police to ensure that they are protected whilst they, undertake their services?
Nobody will force anybody, and I'm telling you that, so, like I said, they shouldn't play propaganda with the lives of Ghanaians. Yes, they can even deploy the army. We will not force anybody out. I've told you that even those who claim they were not part of us have participated actively in the action. All right. I mean, let's tell the truth. I can show you pictures of hospitals that OPDs have completely shut down. And if they want to go on this route, we will continue.
All right, hold it for me. Let me take a quick trip to some of the hospitals across the country so that I can get your reaction to what is happening now. Let me start off from the Konfanoti Teaching Hospital, and Clinton Yabua is with our sister station, Love FM. Clinton, so you went to Konfanoti today. Paint a picture of what you saw.
Well, at the Konfanoti Teaching Hospital, the strike action is in full force because some patients were there as early as 5 a.m. and they were turned away. And from there, I went also into the Pampaso Children's Hospital, where postnatal and antenatal care has been halted. And particularly even for pregnant women, they are being turned away and they are not receiving even antenatal care. And what nurses tell them are that they do not know when they will be coming back to service. And so those leaving, those who came seeking for health care, are living in uncertainty and sadness as to how their situation could worsen. But the nurses have spoken to say they have nothing to say. It's everything is left to the government. And so they just look on. They are not happy that the situation has gotten to this extent, but they feel that is the only right way to get it back.
So for Konfanoti and the Children's Hospital at Pampaso, you did not come across any nurse working?
No, they are there. You could see them. They are very visible, but they are not working. They are actually the ones sitting. The offices are closed, so they have stationed themselves in front of the offices and rather turning patients away, telling them what the situation is and why they cannot attend to them.
And those you came across in search of medical care, what did they tell you?
Most of them are very disappointed because they were not in the known of what could have happened or what is happening at the moment. And so they came in full assurance of getting health care. Some are there with their babies. Some are there with, you could see their condition. They are big stomach, but they are being turned away and they serve. Some are also there for reviews, which means that the process that they started some days ago by this strike has been broken.
All right. Clinton, thank you so much. Let me cross over to the Bono East region, where my colleague Anas Sabet has also been monitoring events there. Anas, is it the same like we are hearing from the Kumasi Konfanoti Teaching Hospital?
It's the same. Here in the Bono East region, nurses across almost all Ghana Health Service facilities are actively engaged in the nationwide strike action. Nurses who are within the OPD, the emergency units, and then the ANC departments are all not working or offering services to patients who visited the various facilities. So they are across checked in Tampo, Municipal Hospital. I've done same with Achibubu Government Hospital. Here in Techima at the Ablekuma Women and Children Hospital. Same is the situation, with the exception of inpatient unit where, we saw some nurses taking care of patients who are already, admitted. The other services are all off as I speak to you now. We also know that all child facilities are excluded from this particular situation. So the major health facility here, the Holy Family Hospital, has its nurses attending to patients. However, all Ghana Health Service, facilities in the entire Bono East region have their nurses actively participating in the strike action.
Right, and I'm curious to know, did you speak to the managers of the hospital and then to find out what they are doing in the interim?
Well, they seemed not to know what to do for now because they said they are not directly having power or authority over these nurses. And so until the nurses are done with the strike, they can't do anything, in the interim to save the situation. So one of them I spoke with is appealing to a government or those in authority authority to come to their aid so that the strike action will come to an end as soon as possible. Because as I teach you, I also learned that on the 9th of this month, those within the inpatient unit will also join the strike, and that will mean the situation is going to be terrible for those who are currently on admission at the various health facilities here.
Right. Thank you very much, Nasabed. In fact, when we spoke to my colleague, Visetoji, who is our correspondent in the Volta region, she indicated that some nurses came to work this morning and were seen working at the time she visited the hospital. But scores of patients were left stranded today as nurses and midwives intensified their nationwide strike, withdrawing both OPD and emergency service at some public health facilities across the country. The escalation has brought healthcare delivery to a standstill in many hospitals, long queues of frustrated patients and overwhelmed skeletal staff struggling to manage critical care. Collins Frimpong, my colleague, went to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital to assess the impact of the strike.
Registered Nurses and the Midwife Association has begun a strike action demanding that government should implement their reviewed conditions of service. In fact, they began their strike on Monday, where members of the group started with wearing red armbands and other things, placing them at their various working places, and also some material that belongs to them. Today, on Wednesday, they have begun a strike where they withdrew all OPD services at various public health facilities. And here at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital in the Greater Accra region, we've been here to assess the impact of the strike, and what we've been told is that various OPD services have been withdrawn. When we go to the accident and the orthopedic OPD session, and also the central OPD, maternity OPD, surgical OPD, as well as the child health OPD, the nurses and the midwives there in these various OPDs all have withdrawn their services, and patients that were coming here to sort for services have been left stranded. So as you can see right behind me, a lot of patients here that I can count are roughly around 10 getting to 20s. The accident and the orthopedic OPD here have been left stranded, that they wanted to get access to they wanted to get access to services from various nurses and health professionals that they are not getting. Many of them that we've been speaking to, that they will not speak on camera, that we've been speaking to, have been telling us how frustrated they are. We've also been to the emergency ward where patients have also been left stranded over there. So that's the situation here at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital at various OPD sessions, where patients have been left stranded because of the situation, because of the nurses and the midwife strike.
All right. Thank you so much, my colleague Collins. Let me quickly pick the thoughts of David Tinkwa. So David, you're General Secretary of Nurse and Midwife Association of Ghana. This could lead to avoidable deaths. You are not happy with what is happening?
Absolutely. I'm not happy with what is happening. I've told you that this action shouldn't lead to the demise of anybody. You see, what we have learned how to do best is to take care of people. Obviously, some people will die anyway, which is a natural phenomenon. Even that, we need to nurse them to their peaceful death. That is the kind of training that we have received. And therefore, if anybody takes any course of action that is inimical to our work and our well-being, and it will certainly lead to some of these avoidable deaths, as you have mentioned, then it is anathema. It is regrettable. I think that the government the employer should come in handy and do the needful, and so that we can come back to work. Look, we are going to stir it up. Okay, I mean, oftentimes when you declare a strike action, the first day people try to mark time and see whether it will be effective and all that. Tomorrow you are likely not to see anybody. From Monday, we're withdrawing our inpatient services. The point is that you are seeing nurses around because the inpatients are there. All right. Once we decide to withdraw the inpatient services, you're not going to see any nurse at the facility at all. But it's unfortunate. I think we shouldn't have gotten to this far, but we've been praised. Let me tell you something. In 2016, our condition of service never got implemented. And that's what people don't know. Especially these breakaway groups. Some of them were formed recently. So they are not very privy to some of these challenges that we have had over the years. In 2016, the entire condition of service that we negotiated for never saw implementation. It was only 2020 that we got some aspect of the condition of service implemented. We think that the employer is taking us for granted, and we need to press home our demand for better condition of service. And my brother, you see, if there is any time that any employer will be minded, it should be this time. Look at the number of nurses that have left the shores of Ghana. It's not as though those who are working cannot leave. They can also leave. Okay, but they have decided that they will stay in Ghana and help build this country. We need to build this country together. All right. So those who are seized with authority to do the right thing should do the right thing and stop being intransigent.
Well, we'll wait to hear from government, but let's leave it here. Dr. David Tinkran, the General Secretary of the Nurses and Midwives Association of Ghana, and they withdrew OPD and emergency care in all public hospitals across the country today already. It is biting hard on those who went in this morning in search of medical care. And we are following up on this matter in subsequent bulletins. We'll bring what the government this morning said was deploying the police to ensure that those who have decided to work will be protected, but it doesn't appear that it happened this morning. But this morning also, the minority in Parliament is, they hit the streets of Accra from Parliament to the police headquarters to put pressure on the Inspector General of Police to provide security to resume and conclude the collation of resource for the Ablekuma North constituency. It's been almost 6 months since we heard the December 7th general elections that saw the NDC come to power. But Ablekuma North is still without representation as the 9th Parliament is in search. The Electoral Commission blames the police for failing to ensure security to complete the coalition. NPP MPs marched from Parliament to the police headquarters to express their displeasure over the innocent. Minority Chief Whip Frank Anadompreb, who presented a petition to the police leadership, warned that their patience is, running thin.
A subsequent high-level meeting involving the Inspector General of Police, the Electoral Commission, and the Election Security Task Force reaffirmed the importance of concluding the coalition. Yet, no action has been taken up to date. Our demands are simple and straightforward. Without mincing words, the continued disenfranchisement of the people of Ablekuma North represent not only a denial of their constitutional rights to representation, but also an affront to the democratic principles enshrined in the 1992 Constitution. This crisis erodes public trust in the integrity and independence of state institutions, particularly the Ghana Police Service. We therefore request that your office takes immediate steps without any more delay. Deploy adequate security personnel to the Electoral Commission at its designated coalition center. Ensure an enabling environment for the peaceful and lawful conclusion and coalition and declaration process in Ablekuma North. Uphold the High Court directive and cooperate fully with the EC to bring closure to this matter once and for all. The Ghana Police Service must not be perceived as the institution standing in the way of democracy. Democracy delayed is democracy denied.
Well, let me quickly bring in the parliamentary correspondent, Kwaku Asante, who worked with them. So, Kwaku, how soon do they expect action to be taken on this matter? Well, so Kwaku Asante spoke to Habib, who is the deputy whip in Parliament. Let's listen to him.
Needful as a state institution and provide security to the Electoral Commission to declare the seat. We are very convinced that the candidate for the New Patriotic Party won the seat. That is why the NDC is still pulling. There are those who say that they should rerun the process completely in Ablekuma North. You are against that? But that was not the directive of the court. Which court is saying that they should rerun the election? The court directive is that they should recollate and declare it. So if it is another court ruling that says they should rerun it, why would they want the NDC saying that they should rerun it? If they think that they have won the election, then they should recollate. The good people of Ablekuma need representative in parliament. 276 constituencies, 275 have been declared, except Ablekuma North for 6 months now. Why?
Right, so let's see if we can have Kwaku. Kwaku, can you hear me? Kwaku, if we can unmute so we can hear you.
I can hear you.
Right, so I asked early on about...
I can hear you, Elton.
Yeah, so the NPP candidate also joined the match and you spoke to her.
Well, yes, according to the candidates, the calls for the Electoral Commission to rerun the election in the constituency is completely uncalled for. They have their pink sheets. They won the election fair and square. And any attempt by the Electoral Commission and the police to force any recollation or to force a rerun, I should say, of that poll will be fiercely resisted. Because as far as they are concerned, they've won. Okay. The collation must conclude so she can be declared winner and for her to take a seat in Parliament.
You say they should rerun. If you were the one who won, will you say they should rerun? You know the King Solomon issue. We won the election hands down. And so there isn't going to be any rerun. We have the pin sheet. We have every evidence. We've collated with their agent throughout 6 times. And this is where we are. So if you were the one who won, will you suggest there should be a rerun? That's my question.
And Kwaku, did you get, did the minority get a direct response from the police?
Well, yes, the police officers who were there, very brief in their response, that this petition will be well considered, will be sent to the desk of the IGP, and as soon as any decisions are taken on this matter, a decision will be announced to the minority and the public as well.
All right, we'll leave it here for now. Kwaku Asante is a parliamentary correspondent and will stay in Parliament by another different matter. Now, it's been a few weeks filled with significant national developments from the arrest, detention, and subsequent release of the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the NPP, Bernard Jubo-Esiako, also known as Chairman Wuntumin, by Yoko, to the closure and reopening of the Ghana Embassy in Washington, D.C. The headlines have been unrelenting. Add to that, the declaration of former Finance Minister Kendo Foriata as a wanted man by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, along with a string of heated issues unfolding in Parliament. Yesterday, for example, the minority boycotted the passage of some addition to the taxes on petroleum products. Now, we are unpacking it all in one sitting, and my guest is, as always, firebrand Member of Parliament for Damago in the Savannah region, Samuel Abujinapo. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Elton. Very good to be here.
Great, great. And you want why the interest in Ablekuma North?
Well, but when elections are conducted, the results of the elections have to be declared, shouldn't they? We have 276 constituencies in Ghana, and 275 of those have been declared. What at all is the reason why Ablekuma North has not been declared 6 clear months after the elections were held? I think we have to have answers to that.
And there's been demands, some say we should have a total rerun. The court hasn't come to such a decision. What is left is some few electoral areas to be added up to what has already been collected, and the declaration is. Do you really need to tell the police to do their work? Because I think that in practice they should be doing that. Nobody should go and ask them to do their work.
Well, I think it's important that we all acknowledge that in a democracy, institutions must work. And if institutions are not up to the task, you will have citizens, groups, and political parties taking measures of their own, which is the last thing we want to have in our country. And therefore, if the Electoral Commission has come out formally to indicate that what they require to be able to bring the Ablekuma North elections to closure,
right,
and some firm conclusion, is protection from the Ghana Police Service. What is preventing the Ghana Police Service from doing that? I mean, I find that whole situation totally bizarre. And I believe the minority, we've taken this position, the position we've taken and the protest, which was waged by the minority, rightly so, today, is essentially to bring to the front burner and to demand and insist that the police are up to task and live up to their responsibility by providing security and protection for the Electoral Commission to discharge its mandate of declaring the results of Ablekuma North. The people of Ablekuma North deserve representation in Parliament. And as we speak today, isn't it totally anomalous and a scandal that there is a whole constituency for 6 months without representation?
And it's difficult to appreciate, because clearly this shouldn't drag to this far.
It certainly shouldn't.
How many polling centers are outstanding that will have to just keep a whole constituency in limbo as who is representing them?
Well, and as it's turning out, I think also that what has become extremely clear is the fact that the victor of that election and the winner of that election is pretty clear. It's quite obvious that the NPP candidate won the election, and the reason why some individuals or groups or political party is made it a point to prevent the collation of the results and the subsequent declaration is because they already know the outcome. And so I think, look, I don't think it's good for our democracy. I don't think it's a good image of the government. The government has a considerable majority in Parliament.
Right.
And even if they didn't, let right be right and let justice prevail and let the winner of the elections be declared and declared immediately.
Let's just say in Parliament, yesterday you walked out. Why?
Well, but what is happening in our country? You have a government that said they will have, they protested against e-levy vehemently. They, in fact, not too long ago, when the president opened the National Economic Dialogue, the finance minister said he will not reward the electricity company of Ghana for their inefficiencies with taxes and tariffs. And just weeks and months thereafter, we have been slapped with a levy, which is almost 200% of e-levy. If you look at the impact, the immediate direct impact is going to have on cost of living and on the standard of living of individuals in our country. And this is the case where you cannot even escape it. In the case of e-levy, you only paid when you send money through mobile money.
Right.
In this particular case, whichever way you look at it, the negative impact is going to be on all citizens of our country. So, I mean, I think we're so right to have walked out.
But the justification, they say that they will use this money to address Dumso and then to also help deal with the energy sector debt.
Really? I've also heard comments from officials of the government saying that this has nothing to do with any debt and that this has everything to do with populating the accounts or the funds of the energy sector to be able to keep the lights on. No, I'm not even getting into the matter of Dumso or not, and also whether or not this is required to deal with Dumso. I'm dealing with the principle of cost of living and what the NDC stood for when they were in opposition, what they fought against, e-levy. And not too long after they won elections, the position taken by the finance minister that we should not have additional taxes or tariffs. 6 months down the road, with all that is happening in our country, the cost of living, issues of livelihoods, and so on and so forth, and what the government fought against and stood for, and the commitments they made to bring about relief to the ordinary citizen. And just 6 months, we've had increment in electricity tariffs, water tariffs, and here we are, we have a levy being slapped on the ordinary citizen once again, just 6 months into government. I mean, I think that, that really the principle of it and the fact that there's a clear departure from the promises and commitments which were made to alleviate the sufferings of the Ghanaian.
But by the way, you agree with me, we'll have to find a way to deal with the energy sector debt. According to your brother, as at the last count, we are
according to the energy minister.
According to the energy minister, as at the last count, the debt stood somewhere around 800 billion cedis. Now, the finance minister said that debt alone is enough to collapse the entire economy of this country. And so something ought to be done about it. the majority leader says that basically it is saying that Ghanaians should give 1 cedi each when they buy a liter of fuel so we can end doom so. Just 1 cedi so we can end doom so.
Yeah, but the government itself has said that this is not meant to deal with energy sector debt. The government has come out. I heard it. The government has come out formally, officially, to say this levy is not being imposed to deal with debt. And the energy sector recovery levy, ESLA, is already in place, which is what is being curated for dealing with energy sector debt.
Right.
Okay. And the government has said this is not a levy to deal with debt. And of course, when the NPP came into office in 2017, the NPP inherited debt across the government spectrum.
Right.
My fundamental point has nothing to do with doomsday and how it to be dealt with and what is required to deal with it and so on and so forth. My point is the principle of it, the principle of cost of living, the principle of livelihoods of Ghanaian people, the principle of the National Democratic Congress when they were in opposition, the principle which was laid by the finance minister at the National Economic Dialogue, which was held sometime in March.
Right.
And 6 months down the road, this is obviously going to impose a lot of burden on the everyday Ghanaian. That is indeed the point. And the government needs to be speaking. And you heard the nurses,
right,
talk about their condition of service. And this is just going to exacerbate the cost of living for ordinary Ghanaians. And for me, that is where our attention should be.
In fact, this afternoon, some officials of the GPRTU, last week, they had to reduce fares because of the appreciation of the cedi against the US dollar. Now, if you want to put this in proper context, a liter of fuel, so 5 liters will make 1 gallon. That means every gallon you buy, you are spending 5 cedis more on it because of this tax. And they say that we were asked to reduce fares because of the appreciation of the cedi against the dollar. We did so. Now, you've used another means to impose more taxes on petroleum products. And it is forcing us to go back to the old price.
This is a classic case of robbing Peter to pay Paul. I mean, it's a classic case. And the issue of the appreciation of the currency is not a constant. We all expect that our currency should be strong. We all hope that our governments will put in place the right measures to keep the Ghanaian cedi strong. I mean, that should be the wish of every Ghanaian. But as we've seen over the years, and as our economic history should teach us, and as is the case in almost all countries in the world, the strength or otherwise of a currency is not constant. But this levy is constant. So even if you reduce fares 2 weeks ago on account of the appreciation of our currency, it may as well be that in 3 months, 6 months down the road, or a year down the road, we don't wish for it, but the currency may depreciate. But this levy will still be in place. So really, the point is the commitment, for me, is the issue. The commitment the government made. Vote for us, we come into office, we will put in place measures which will cushion the Ghanaian. Vote for us, we come into office, we'll put in place measures which will reduce the cost of living. Vote for us, we come into office, we will protect your livelihoods. And 6 months down the road, you have this major levy which is being slapped on the Ghanaian people, which is about 200% e-levy, more than e-levy. And e-levy was said to be a levy which was going to impoverish the Ghanaian people. But what will this do to the Ghanaian people? That's the question we have to ask.
But if this will keep the lights on, then we should welcome it.
We should welcome it. I mean, we all want the lights to be on. There's absolutely no two ways about that. But you still have to answer the question of the commitment to reduce cost of living. Assuming the government brought this in and said, look, we're bringing this in, which will ensure that we keep the lights on. But we recognize that this is going to have a negative impact on cost of living. And therefore, we are taking these other additional measures to cushion you. But that is not the case. You keep the lights on, but then it will still bring a burden on the Ghanaian people, and it will exacerbate the issue of cost of living. And this is a government that said they're coming to deal with cost of living. And 6 months down the road, you are putting in place measures which is going to worsen cost of living in our country. That is a question that we have to ask the government. There's no two ways about that.
All right, so my guest is Samuel Abu-Jinapor, and of course, your comments are welcome. Now, he's also the ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee. So let's spend some time on events within that committee in the last few weeks. First is the decision by governments or by the Foreign Affairs Minister to close down Ghana's embassy in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States of America. But currently, as we speak, the embassy is opened. In your view, was that a prudent decision?
Well, I think everything about that decision is problematic. And I want to believe that if the minister was given another opportunity, he probably would have done this differently. And if you look, Elton, if you look at the time frame between when the mission was closed down and when the mission was reopened, you have to come to the conclusion that the decision was not well thought through, that it was a rash decision, and it was not diplomatically elegant.
Right.
There's absolutely no two ways about that. There is a laid down procedure for the closure, the opening and closure of diplomatic missions across the country, across the world. You first of all have to take the decision, and the decision must be grounded. It must be first, for example, due to diplomatic rift, security concerns, budgetary constraints, strategic reallocation of resources, and this is governed. Okay, this is governed by international law, the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations.
Right.
So even the decision, there's a laid down grounds on which
an embassy can be closed.
An embassy can be closed on the account of the Vienna Convention, and it is set out clearly that it's either diplomatic rift, security concerns, budgetary constraints, strategic reallocation of resources. I don't know where this particular ground falls within this grounds which has been set out under the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. But you have to notify the host country.
Right.
2. 3, you have to coordinate with the host country. 4, you have to have internal preparations. You have to have consular notification. You have to, of course, public announcement, flag lowering, enclosure ceremony, turnover of the premises for the mission, and legal and financial wrap-up. It's a whole laid out 10-point grounds and procedure for the closure of diplomatic.
It is for temporary or permanent closure?
Whichever. If you are going to close down your diplomatic mission, you have to go through these processes. That was not done. Secondly, the grounds on which the closure was announced, as you know, it was because a certain non-foreign service staff, a local contractor, who set up an outfit for courier services and other services relating to visas, okay, and which the ministry had issues with in terms of the proprietary of their operations.
Right.
And that, for me, I don't think is a sufficient grounds for closing a diplomatic mission. This person is not even a foreign service officer. This person has come out to even deny flatly of any malfeasance or of any wrongdoing. And as we speak, a competitor organization or a competitor company, an Indian company, which renders the same services, is still ongoing. I mean, nothing has been done to that particular company. That
for the Ghana embassy
in Washington. Yes, an Indian company. I have that on record. So all put together, we took the view, and by that I mean the minority caucus on the Foreign Affairs Committee took the view that the decision was rushed, and there have been similar incidences in the past. They've been dealt with in a different manner without the brouhaha which was associated with this particular decision. And as a matter of fact, it had far-reaching negative consequences on the reputation of Ghana in the eyes of the Committee of Nations.
But some are saying that the integrity of Ghana's embassy was at stake because of what this person was alleged to be doing.
Yeah, but that, first of all, the person is even denied it. Second of all, the investigation is not being concluded. Thirdly, there are several departments of a mission. You have the Trade Department, you have the Security Department, you have the Investment Promotion Department, you have so many other departments of a mission. You have the Consular Services, you have career foreign service officials who have nothing to do with this particular issue.
And all of them were asked to go home.
All of them were asked to go home. And they've been a complete withdrawal, recall of foreign service officials from the Washington mission to Ghana. And some people are even raising the issue that this may probably be some charade or a ruse in order to realign people at the missions across the world.
Because a new set of individuals were sent there.
Yes.
After those working, they were asked to go home.
So the bona fides of that is even being called into question. And the reports we have is that morale among foreign service officials across the world in Ghana's missions is quite low, because these persons who are so dedicated will break their backs for our country. There's a brush which is being used to brush all of them as though they are all criminals, they are all fraudulent. And we think that if the minister wants to have a proper interrogation or overhaul of the operations of our missions across the world. There is a much better way, an elegant way of...
But to deal with the bleeding, I mean, you've come across a situation where an embassy staff may have compromised his position. And
it's not even an embassy staff.
Okay, a local contractor.
Yes.
But he had access to the extent that if he was able to, according to the minister, divert applicants to a certain portal where payments were made, and then the minister didn't know to what extent maybe his activity may have compromised other staff. I mean, the prudent thing for him, according to him, was to get everybody off whilst investigation, are conducted to establish
Investigations took 48 hours or so, and then mission was reopened. Clearly, the decision was established to have been rushed and not well thought through. Because if you were going to conduct investigations, it would have taken you a certain number of time. But it wasn't the case in this particular instance. The mission was reopened 48 hours after the closure. Again, this individual or this contractor is contesting all of these claims.
Right.
But that is not even what I'm interested in. I'm not getting into the veracity or otherwise of the claims and counterclaims. I'm concerned about the decision to close down the mission. I think the decision to close down the mission was, the grounds for closing the mission in a country like the United States, an important partner of our country like the United States. I mean,
the minister had the express, backing of the president when he issued that Facebook post.
And within 48 hours, the mission was reopened.
You think there's more to it than what we've been told? I'm wondering whether the minority knows that you've undertaken your own independent probe into this matter.
There are numerous claims as to what is the real motive for this kind of move. And some have even suggested political motives. In other words, they want to recall so many foreign service officials in order to send officials who are, deemed to be aligned or politically correct. I don't want to venture into that space. What I'm saying and what the caucus is saying is that the decision to close down the mission, the grounds for that decision, for us, the grounds did not merit the
kind of action that was taken.
The kind of action that was taken. The announcement of it on Facebook and all of that, and the recall of all the officials from Washington mission and other missions across the world, all of these are matters which does not promote the reputation of Ghana as a respected member of the international community. And therefore, we've even filed an urgent question in Parliament, and we've made a requisition that the minister appears before the committee for us to have a discussion with him
on this matter.
Because we find it very, very, very serious, and we think that it's important that Ghana's foreign policy is conducted in a manner that lifts the flag of Ghana.
And I thought the committee will come together on this matter, but when I heard the chairman of the committee say that the majority, the NDC side of the committee, will undertake a familiarization tour of the embassy in the US, and I asked myself, why not everybody? Why just one side?
Well, I mean, we don't have a difficulty with a familiarization tour, but we think that that is not the important issue on the table today. The important issue on the table when the closure took place, and at the time the respected chairman of the committee, Honorable Oko van der Poy, held a press conference, was that the mission be reopened. Because at the time he held this press conference, the mission was still closed. And our priority was to advocate for the reopening of Ghana's mission in Washington, which was done a day or so after. Now, we don't know the outcome of the investigations. We have to wait for the outcome of the investigations. But we are still also calling on the minister and the ministry to exercise restraint in respect of this recall of foreign service officials and reposting of foreign service officials across board. We think and we have reliable feedback and information that is dampening the morale of Ghana's foreign service officials across the world, and that is a problem.
All right, we'll talk about illegal mining, but let me quickly pick your brains on your Ashanti Regional Chairman spent almost a week in Yoko, custody for whatever. Yoko has yet to form. I mean, you are a lawyer. Yoko has a state entity as we speak right now. As far as Yoko is concerned, we do not know exactly why Chairman Wontumi was held in their custody for 6 days. I can go with the comments by the Deputy Attorney General that he was being investigated for money laundering and few other matters. But Yoko as an entity has yet to fully tell Ghanaians the reason why it kept Chairman Wontumi in custody for 6 days. When he appeared before CID, a day after the CID of the police issued a statement telling us why they invited him for questioning. First, your take on the detention and then the fact that we are in the dark as to what really is going on as far as the Yoko investigation is concerned.
Well, Elton, you know, it may be difficult to point this out, but clearly, what has happened to Chairman Wontumi, and you've been involved in the discourse of our country for a while now, and you may attest to what I'm about to say. It's almost like a circus, okay? It's almost like merry-go-round. In the past, and I will not specify particular administrations, but in the past we've seen people being arrested. You know, when there's a change of government, there are people being arrested and put in detention, and they are either denied bail. In some cases, their rights are even trampled upon, and in other cases, they are given very unreasonable and onerous bail conditions, which makes it difficult to satisfy, and it just go on. And sometimes when you've been in this enterprise for a while, you cannot help but identify that this is the usual show him where power lies, you know? Teach him a little lesson, and so on and so forth. We're laughing about it, but it's not a matter it's not a laughable matter. In other words, if we want to build a democracy which is fit for purpose, we must ensure that the rule of law prevails. And we must ensure that right is right, wrong is wrong. And if the rule of law works, and if the law works, and if people's rights are protected, and there are safeguards, take it from me, it works for all of us.
Right.
Because today you are in government, tomorrow you are not in government. And if the law works, the law protects each and every one of us. You know of the story of Adolf Hitler, when in Germany during the Second World War, they arrest this person, they arrest that person, nobody speaks out, and those who don't speak out begin to become victims of that particular regime. So for me, that's how I look at it. If you ask me in all sincerity, and I think that every objective-minded person, I mean, most objective-minded persons will come to the conclusion this was a classic case of teaching Chairman Wontumi a lesson.
Why? Why?
No? Well, why, we can get into that another time. But when you look at it all, the whole play, it was obviously the situation of, look, let's teach him a lesson. But it is totally, totally wrong. Because somebody was taught a lesson yesterday, another person was taught a lesson a week ago, or in another administration. Chairman Wontumi, there's supposed to be an attempt to teach him a lesson, and then tomorrow you continue the merry-go-round and you have the circus. That is not how a democracy should function.
So for you, this is a political harassment?
Well, it's you cannot help but come to that conclusion. Look, bail, the grant or denial of bail is anchored on one fundamental principle, which is that when the person is required to appear before the investigator or before a court, a trial court, or before a prosecution, the person will not abscond. The person will indeed appear. Or if the person is released, the person will interfere with investigations or will tamper with evidence and so on and so forth. Bail is not punishment. So you cannot arrest somebody, or you cannot have a suspect and keep him in custody as a punishment, because the only institution or the only body that has the right, the legal mandate to mete out punishment is the court, is the judiciary.
And some suggest that instead of massing up at the Yoko head office, the party should have gone to court to get a call to vary the bail condition. That was not done.
The question should be
solidarity with
No. With the greatest of respect, the question should be, why should he be detained in the first place? Why was he detained in the first place? Let alone for us to get to the point of bail. Are we saying that Chairman Wontumi will abscond? Are we saying that if Yoko needed him tomorrow or a week or a month after, he will not appear? Are we saying that if charges were to be preferred against him and he was to be put before a court of competent jurisdiction, he will not appear? He will not appear to stand trial? Or are we saying that if he was released, he will interfere with evidence and so on and so forth? So, first of all, when somebody is a suspect, and the person is being investigated, the person is not to be detained. Ab initio, simpliciter, the person is not to be detained. The person is detained only when there's sufficient grounds that if Mr. Elton Brobe is released and the investigative body requires his appearance, the person will not be found, or the person will abscond, or the person will bolt. Or that if you release him, he will go and interfere with evidence, or that if you release him, he'll commit a further crime. Okay, before you even get to the point of bail. But I'm saying to you that quite regrettably and unfortunately, this also, once again, is another classic case of Ghanaian democracy circles, merry-go-round. We have come into office. Chairman Wontumi said this, he said that, he offended this person, he offended that person. As the account people will say, or something, let's detain him, let's, teach him a little lesson, raffle him up. Not good for our country, not good for democracy. I'm hoping that in the not too distant future, an NPP government, God willing, will depart from this and come into office and deal with people by the law when there's a clear, strong evidence of wrongdoing. The people are made to face the full rigors of the law and done in a manner that their human rights are not trampled upon and not motivated by political considerations. I think that is absolutely important, and it's good for our country.
But Honorable, what is clear is that this matter is not ending anytime soon. It may not be only one to me, because from what we are picking, even yesterday, for example, the former member of parliament from Nchia South, Dr. Matopoku Prempe, says that he's been investigated by the NIP and is cooperating with them. President Mahama yesterday says that he received a report from the oral committee. He's received the opinion of from the Attorney General. There are 33 cases that they think that it should go to court and get the people to come and answer for whatever crime that may be established against them. So it looks like the NPP is under some kind of scrutiny because of how you may or may not have conducted yourself in the last 80 years. And government is going on a full throttle to get accountability.
You know, when you serve in government or when you have something to do with government, you have to be prepared to account. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with the government holding ex-officials and even current officials to account for their stewardship. There's totally nothing wrong with that. You know, even in a hotel, when you check into a hotel, before you check out, the receptionist will ask you a few questions.
Right,
Is that not the case?
right.
How much more a government when you serve as a minister or that and that? All of us have been questioned one way or the other. There's nothing wrong with that. And I don't think anybody should take...
Under the NDC?
Yes.
Presently?
Absolutely.
They are questioning you?
All of us. Literally all the people who have served under President Akufo-Addo have had some... have gone through some accountability process or the other.
What are they questioning you about?
Well, I'm not talking about myself.
Okay.
I use it in a general sense.
Okay.
But I'm saying, and my point is that there should be nothing wrong with that. I mean, nobody should quarrel with the government that the government is, for example, called me or anybody to ask him or her a question or two about one or two issues. It will even be a dereliction of duty on the government's part if the government was not insisting on accountability, not just for past government officials, but also current government officials.
Right.
I mean, accountability is the bedrock of governance, and the president's mandate is to ensure that there is accountability across the spectrum of government, whether previous government or current government. The point I've made, and I believe the point several pundits have made, is how you go about it. So once it is done in a manner that suggests that it is politically motivated or that it is, as I said, teach him a lesson, then we have a problem. I mean, if Chairman Wontumi, there's grounds or suspicion, I mean, I don't know why he was arrested. I don't know why he's been investigated. The Attorney General has come out to give us snipers of it.
Right.
I believe all of us will have no difficulty whatsoever in associating ourselves with the government's quest to insist or ensure accountability. It is just how it is done. And I think in the case of Chairman Wontumi, I want to believe that the way he was handled and the way he was treated is one that I believe is absolutely undesirable.
What about the matters relating to the former finance minister and the OSP? and the way the OSP is going about it. The finance minister is not available to answer questions. In fact, the OSP says that they're not even looking forward to ask me. They are looking forward to arrest him and charge him. And he's simply not available.
You know, well, I have to give this disclosure. The OSP was my criminal law lecturer when I was in law faculty.
Okay.
You know, and he taught me criminal law very well. Let me put it that way. And I don't know. I mean, if I ever get opportunity to interact with him, I may pose this question to him, which is that, do you require the physical presence of an individual in order to investigate a person?
It says he's seeking to arrest him. He can't do so via video conferencing.
Why do you have to arrest him? I mean, he can be investigated without being arrested. He can be prosecuted in absentia and all of that. But I don't even think we should get there. I don't think the OSP and the former finance minister should get there. I honestly think that if there is enhanced communication between the former finance minister's team, legal team, and the OSP, they can come to some compromise, because we have all been told of the health condition of the finance minister, and I have no reason to doubt that. And if it is indeed on health grounds, which is the reason why he's unable to come, which I believe to be so, and the OSP's desire to proceed with his mandate and his work, they can have some engagement to come to some compromise or consensus as to how to go about this. I'm not too sure I believe the brouhaha can be avoided.
Okay. Now let's spend some time. I've seen so many questions. I will share with you pretty soon, because a lot of people appear to have so much interest in the conversation, especially you as well. But yesterday, also on Monday, there's this man in motion. I don't know whether you were there at the KMPC Hotel. President Mahama made the point that moving forward, importers of excavators will require official permit. We've also heard from the DVLA CEO that excavators must now go through registration process so that they can identify those who brought them into the country. All sit in a broader plan of government to deal with the issue of illegal mining. You led this sector for 4 years. Do you think this will work?
Well, Elton, I've been listening to President Mahama for the past 6 months, and it's quite obvious that illegal small-scale mining is the fight against illegal small-scale mining seems to be a priority for him. Now, what has happened today is a clear vindication of some of the positions that Akufo-Addo government took, and which I had the privilege and honor to lead. One of the major points I made, and I want to repeat it here, that small-scale mining is a very endemic, complicated or complex industry.
Right.
At the heart of it is money. And today, the price of gold has never been what it is today. The price of gold is out of the roof, $3,100 an ounce. And it should tell you that it's the most precious commodity you can find in the world.
Absolutely.
Today.
Right.
And that becomes a big incentive, a big attraction for people to get into mining, whether legal or illegal. Number two, I think it's become absolutely evident, and we've been totally vindicated that some of the positions our friends took when they were in opposition, they've jettisoned most of them. And we've all come to the conclusion that they were either born out of political expediency or a lack of appreciation of the menace we're dealing with. I mean, take, for example, the government at the time, the opposition at the time said the government should declare a state of emergency immediately.
On all river bodies.
Yes,
and
not just river bodies, all mining districts in Ghana. They said we should declare a state of emergency. And the Trades Union Congress insisted on that. The Catholic Bishops' Conference insisted on that. The Christian Council insisted on that. The NDC in opposition said if they were voted into office, they would declare a state of emergency immediately. 6 months down the road, a state of emergency has not been declared. You know that?
Right.
Okay. The NDC, at the time said the real effort to fight illegal small-scale mining should be to arrest and deal with the patrons, the macos, the leaders of the syndicates, the politically connected people. We all know today, and I think if you are an investigative journalist, you're a man about town, you know what's happening in Ghana. If you put your ears on the ground, you can ask any of your investigative journalists. the group of people who are out there in the forest reserves of our country, across our country, who have taken the view that our party is now in government and therefore we have taken over to mine indiscriminately, and the political involvement is even more as we speak today.
Right.
The state of illegal small-scale mining is worsened as we speak today. Now, I'm not about to be too judgmental on the government at this stage, or even on the minister responsible for lands and natural resources, because I know what it means to deal with this matter. I was there for 4 years, and he's just taking office.
And how difficult was it? Maybe I can ask you on a personal note. How difficult was it in leading this fight?
Very difficult, extremely difficult. And the reasons I'm giving you is what makes it very difficult. Is money, is complicated, it's endemic. There are all kinds and manner of people involved, and it's very, very difficult. And as I say, the minister has been there for just 3 or 4 months, and it will be unfair to begin to criticize him and to begin to pass judgment on him. But what has become absolutely evident as we speak today is that a lot of the things our friends said when they were on the other side, they've been in government, and we've all seen that it is impossible for them to be able to walk the talk. Take the example of excavators. Okay? The president says we require permits moving forward.
Right, to import.
I'm saying to you now and here that the law as it stands today is that you cannot import an excavator without permit.
So
you can't. That's the law. The law is called the F Moving and Equipment Law, so LI, one LI. That is the law. And when I was minister, even when large-scale mining companies like Newmont, Goldfields, you name them, had to import excavators for large-scale mining, they had to write to me as Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. I had to certify that these are mining companies who are going to use these excavators for legitimate, legal mining operations, and forward it to the Minister for Transport. And the Minister for Transport has to give a permit before these excavators are imported into our country. Yes, the president is right that excavators continue to be the biggest problem in our country. And yes, he's right to say that we have one of the largest pool of excavators
in Africa.
In Africa. There's no two ways about that, especially if you look at the number of excavators vis-a-vis the construction portfolio of our country, road constructions and the rest. We do have an excess number of excavators in Ghana, all because of illegal small-scale mining. But the point I make, most respectfully, is that there's sufficient legislative mechanism which requires permitting before excavators are imported. But the question is not about putting in new laws, it's about enforcing the law.
So the issue is that even though the law may exist, it is also possible that a lot of excavators came into town without going through the permit regime.
Well, if that is the case, fine. And if it's the case of putting additional measures to regulate the importation of excavators, I will have no difficulty with it. But I'm saying to you that there is already a law and there's already a regime, a legal regime framework which requires that permits are acquired before excavators are imported into our country. That's a fact. And it's also a fact that illegal small-scale mining is worsened. It's a fact. There is a certain culture of impunity which is creeped into the sector. We wish the president well. We wish the minister well. We will all will them on, and whatever we can do to help, we will do so. But what has become clear today is that this menace was not an Akufo-Addo creation, was not an Akufo-Addo problem, and that the Akufo-Addo government did its best in dealing with this matter. It requires a multifaceted, all-encompassing national effort to deal with it. If the president is going to take on that path, we will all...
Is it the case that the regime, whether present or former, it's always difficult to deal with party people who are involved in this illegal trade?
Well, that is
because sometimes I'm sure that you may have the evidence, but because of the personality involved, it's always difficult to act.
That is one of the problems. I never had that situation. I never had a situation where there was a party person involved in illegal small-scale mining that I turned a blind eye to. We dealt with it indiscriminatally.
The police CID.
We know we burnt excavators.
I do.
Of the National Women's Organizer, and there was a big hula baloo about it in our party.
Madam a lot of things happened.
Even though subsequently a company made a case which we looked into and all of that. So I never had that kind of situation. But yes, there is a issue.
The CID statement on Untumi says that he was undertaking mining in forest reserves without authorization, the polluted water bodies, even if you have the requisite licensing to undertake mining. And this obviously happened under your watch.
Well, Chairman, I wouldn't miss matters are under investigations. I will not comment on that. Let's wait for the outcome of the investigation.
So this war cannot be won without everybody getting together.
Yes, it cannot be won without everybody getting together. And it can be won by continuing, okay, and in some cases, ramping up the measures which have been put in, and additional measures, which deals with all the components of it. The enforcement part of it is important. And I've heard a lot of enforcement these days. I've heard these number of excavators have been arrested, seized.
Now they say you must even register them with DVLA.
Yeah, these number of people have been arrested and that. Look, my friend, my brother, do you know there was a time small-scale mining was banned altogether in Ghana?
Right.
You know that? You know there was a time when we rolled out the policy of decommissioning excavators, which essentially meant burning excavators. And which
I remember your first briefing at the Jubilee House when you assumed the office as Lands and Natural Resources Minister, and the directives that you provided.
Yes, which generated a lot of controversy. We did all that, and yet we did not leave office having dealt with illegal small-scale mining conclusively. We did not. So what I'm saying is, let's eat humble pie. Let's accept that some of the things we said and did in respect of illegal small-scale mining, perhaps, look, somebody will say it was a politics. It's part of Ghana's problem. I'm not sure that should be our attitude. This is a national issue. This is a menace, a canker. It's destroying our river bodies. It's destroying our landscape. It's destroying our forests. It's destroying the very fabric of our society. And if we continue the way it is, we will not have a country called Ghana in the long run. Let's all come together and deal with this. I
was coming to ask the advice you would give Emmanuel Amakufibua, your colleague in Parliament, who is now leading the sector. What advice, I mean, because you've been there before, what would you tell him to achieve some results, if any?
Look, the enforcement mechanisms are all very important. The deterrence is important. The clamping down.
But the law is there.
Clamping down illegal small-scale miners is absolutely important. But you also require some serious capital investment in promoting legal small-scale mining as an alternative to illegal small-scale mining. Very important. When I was minister, I mean, I heard, for example, the point being made that ban small-scale mining. The question today, are they prepared to ban small-scale mining? I'm not sure they will even contemplate it. Because as you know, the president has told us that gold proceeds, the sale of gold proceeds for the first 4 or so months in this year is accrued some 2.87 billion United States.
Almost $3 billion.
And that is what is the mainstay, that is the anchor holding the Ghanaian economy today. So the government will not contemplate banning small-scale mining, and I will not quarrel with them for not contemplating that. But if you put in place lawful small-scale mining, and those who are interested in mining find it attractive to move from illegal small-scale mining to lawful small-scale mining, which is why we had the community mining schemes, okay, which is why we had some of the large-scale mining companies ceding on some of their concessions for community mining schemes. And I inaugurated and commissioned so many of them across the country. In some places where I commissioned them, they employed about 2,000-3,000 people who were involved in legal, lawful, well-regulated small-scale mining, which had regard for the environment. I'm happy that at least where we find ourselves, there cannot be any serious national debate or disputation as to the pathway for dealing with illegal small-scale mining, vis-a-vis the fact that it requires a non-partisan, cross-sectorial, cross-stakeholder effort in dealing with small-scale mining. The chiefs, local political leaders as in DC, assembly people, political parties, civil society, media, security services, all of us have a role to play in dealing with small scale, but it will require leadership. That leadership must come from the president and the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources.
We've got some 15 minutes more to spend with you. Let's talk about party matters. Now, the NPP, after the defeat in the last election, is embarking on a series of measures to revitalize the base of the party. There's this thank you tour, as far as you are concerned. I mean, even though you are yet to attain the age where you can run for the presidency, but you are very experienced. I mean,
I like that.
Yes,
I like that
exactly.
a bit.
Exactly, very experienced.
Not the experience.
You are yet to get there. You will get there. But are you happy with the way the party is going about in terms of galvanizing the base ahead of 2028, for example?
Look, where we are as a political party, I've heard a lot of commentary and a lot of anxiety and concern and worry. All of those are legitimate and grounded. But what the NPP is going through today is not totally unusual. When political parties lose elections, you definitely, inevitably, will have to go through the phase we are going through.
Right.
In 2001, when the NDC lost the 2000 elections, it almost even was some sort of an embarrassment to be seen in an NDC t-shirt, if you want. The likes of Haruna Idrisu, the Honorable Haruna Idrisu, the Minister for Education, were those who came out of student politics and came youth organizing, so many others who began to work for the NDC to become attractive again. In 2008, when the NPP lost, you had all the turmoil,
right,
which occasioned, which became the lot of the NPP. You recall the Congress at Trade Fair when we amended our constitution to expand the
electoral college
and the issues which were associated with it. And when the NDC lost in 2016, in their case, it was even a certain president who lost in 2016. And you had the Kosiboche report and the leaks and what happened and what did not happen. And let us all be truthful to ourselves. In 2017, if anybody has said to a political expert that President Mahama will transition from that defeat of 44% and the NPP garnering almost 170 seats to win a landslide elections in 2024, I believe somebody would have said, look, say that to the Marines.
Right.
You know, I remember very well on the election night of 2016, a very senior figure of our party making the point, and I was present, that we have changed the political map of Ghana, that there's a seismic change in that, because when the seats kept coming, this particular constituency, NPP has won for the first time, here NPP has won for the first time. One would have said, look, this is the end of the NDC, or is the end of President Mahama, you know. But what has happened to us, what happened to the party in 2024, we are never to sweep it under the carpet, and we are never to behave as ostriches and bury our heads in the sand and say that nothing happened. Something dramatic, something catastrophic happened to the NPP in 2024. But then again...
So some say the economy was to blame, the management of it, the internal issues, and all those issues.
You lose elections based on several factors. And I am to look forward. I'm not to look backwards. I look backwards to take lessons.
Right.
And therefore, I'm not going to get involved in blame game. I mean, this person did that person did that. When you lose elections, it will be as a result of multiple reasons. And the responsibility for that will be a collective responsibility. It will not be an individual's responsibility. And so I would say it is a collective responsibility of all of us in the NPP that put us in a position where we lost the election in the manner that we did. Now, having said that, look, a lot that is happening today about the NPP and the rest will all subside, God willing, when we go through our internal processes of electing national executives and the presidential candidate. I am very optimistic that a lot of it will subside and the party will regroup and rally together and put ourselves together to be able to go for the crucial election of 2028.
But despite what appears to be the party rediscovering itself, already we've heard names, and we've heard people make the point that they may put themselves for election for the party flag bearer slot. We've heard your colleague, Dr. Brandon Champon, who says that he set up a committee to investigate and to tell him whether he should contest or not. We've heard Kennedy Japan, who says that when the time is up, I'll put myself out there. The former member of parliament for Suhum, Frederick Oparianza, says that Dr. Bawumia may come. Is it what you need now? When you've not dealt with the issues at the base, and then you appear to be dealing with the matter at the top?
Well, I'm not too sure that the matters are mutually exclusive. I think they all come together. They move in unison, which is that the party has set up a committee to investigate the reasons for our defeat and the circumstances which led to the results we got in 2024, led by the very respected Professor Michael Quay. The committee is presented its report, and the report is in the bosom of the General Secretary of the party. The General Secretary and his leadership are studying the report, and they are implementing some of the recommendations of the report presented by Professor Michael Quay. A lot is happening within the party in terms of reorganization, realignment, regrouping. All of that is going on. The process of electing national executives is all part of the reorganization of the party. And eventually, the process to elect a presidential candidate is also part of reorganization. And indeed, once we get to the point where we've gotten national executives elected and presidential candidates elected, all of those will help with the further reorganization of the party and strengthening of the party for election 2028. In the United Kingdom, for example, when elections are held, the very day the results are declared, there is the opening for a leadership contest very immediately, because having leaders, having the right leaders in themselves is a sine qua non for the reorganization of your party and building your party for the electoral onslaught or the elections ahead of you. And that's exactly what the NPP is doing.
This meeting in Parliament, your expectation, I've heard a tall list of things that the majority leader says that the House will consider, including, taking the monopoly from the Ghana School of Law, then allow other faculties to run the professional law program, plus a tall list of things that Parliament will consider. Your expectation for this meeting?
The strong, high expectations, because a strong minority is a strong democracy.
Right.
And an unchecked government, an unchecked majority is a danger to society. It's a recipe for dictatorship, and we don't want that. We want a minority, no matter how small the minority is, and the question is not the numbers, it's not the quantity, it's the quality. The quality. And the 88 of us in that parliament, led by the venerable Honorable Alexander Afenyo-Markin, have a huge responsibility on our shoulders to live up to expectation, to be worthy minority, worthy opposition, which is capable of holding the government accountable and ensuring that the government is light is shed on the work on the workings and business of the government. That is the overarching responsibility of a minority, and that is exactly what the Afenyo-Markin led minority will be doing in this meeting of Parliament.
I've always wondered how it feels like to be member of Parliament for a constituency where the sitting president has roots in.
Has what? Roots?
Yeah, he has roots in. I mean, he has a relationship with Damango. You are the member of Parliament for that.
I wonder how it feels.
Exactly. I wonder how it feels.
It feels Herculean. It feels terrible.
I can imagine the opposition you face on a daily basis in that constituency.
It's a difficult one. You know, first of all, President Mahama was born in Damango.
Right.
I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, sure.
He was born in Damango Catholic Hospital, the government hospital in Damango. His mother is a big figure in that whole enclave, major matriarch, if you want. And the mother's hometown, specific hometown, is Busunu, which is where the mother is buried. So, if you want, his roots in that constituency, that one is deep, well-connected roots across the length and breadth of the constituency. As you know, in the previous election, they just ended the election. Yeah. In fact, beginning of 2020. The 2020.
You took it from Adam Mutawakilu.
Yes, he beat me. President Mahama beat me, and he beat Adam Mutawakilu as well. And in the 2024 elections, he beat me again by a wide margin, and he beat Adam Mutawakilu. In fact, if all the people who had voted for President Mahama had voted for Adamu Tawakili, I will not be in parliament today. So yes.
So what's the magic? I mean, what are you doing that the people look beyond NDC and then vote for you?
President Mahama is a towering figure there. Maybe I go to plead with him, maybe.
And then finally, yesterday, the Asante paid a courtesy call on the president. I saw you in the pictures. How's Nana Akufo-Addo enjoying retirement?
Oh, he's doing very well. I see him almost on a daily basis. And I think yesterday's visit by the Asantini was really gracious. And it actually is a testament of Asantini's towering stature and image and leadership and all of that. And clearly, he's a man, far, far, far above politics, above partisan politics. As you know, he came to congratulate President Mahama, pay a courtesy call on him, and he visited President Akufo-Addo in his home and did same to President Kufuor.
Right.
I think it was a very, as you know, President Akufo-Addo and Asantehene, the King, His Majesty Asantehene, go way back.
Way back.
So they get on very well. And it was a very lovely day yesterday. We had a good time together.
All right. And your final words are people, as we take leave of us.
Well, my point is just to say to our party people, for us to close our ranks behind the leadership of our party, behind Chairman in Team and General Secretary
Justin
Kodua and the rest, to will them on, support them in the work they are doing. Difficult times, we have our differences. We have huge challenges. It can be very demoralizing, no two ways about it. But we should also always remember that our party was founded and nurtured and built in adversity and in difficulties. And the NPP will always bounce back and bounce back strongly. So if we support our leaders and we close our ranks, we'll always have our differences. There's no two ways about that. And we don't have to be friends to work together. We will step on each other's toes. But what is important is that the interests of the NPP should override all other interests. And God willing, ultimately, we will elect our national executives, elect our presidential candidate, and whoever it will be, we will rally behind the person to secure victory under God for the new Patriotic Party in 2028.
Thank you so much for coming through. Samuel Abujinapo is the Member of Parliament for Damongo in the Savannah region, also the ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee in Parliament. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
Let's take a short break and return with other stories here on The Pulse. Welcome back. This is The Pulse here on Joy News. Now let's deal with some other stories before we go. Now, once discarded as trash, plastic is now paying the bills for some of Accra's most determined workers. At Old Lavender Hill here at Koligono, a former dumping ground is now a place of new beginning. Among them is Victoria Kugali, a plastic collector and mother of three, who is rebuilding her life on plastics. Jemima Andop has more in our Climate Focus series.
Victoria Kugali never imagined she would find her job in a place most people avoid: plastic recycling. She came to Accra from the Volta region not to sort trash, but to rebuild her future.
I was a student, but I couldn't complete my education. I came here trying to find something to do so that I can continue with my education, but all happened when I became pregnant, so I had to stop. And now I'm a mother of 3 kids.
With no one to turn to and no stable income enough to feed her family, Victoria tried many things. The money was never enough until she found work at Asante Recycling Enterprise.
As I entered into the recycling business, I think things are okay for me now. I can take out the kids. Though it's not easy for me, but it's far, far better than the other one that I've engaged myself in. And moreover too, I've done this work for 6 to 7 years now. Here, I'm a worker and at the same time an assistant as a supervisor.
Victoria is one of dozens working here at Old Lavender Hills in Koligono, where plastic waste has turned into jobs and a cleaner environment. Once a symbol of Accra's waste management failure, this area is now home to one of the capital's most impactful recycling efforts.
The way the rubbers and everything go to the gutter and then we discuss who to take it. After we take it and sell for the people. After we decide so we want to buy the machine, and then we recycle it, crash it, and then we sell for people.
In a city where plastic often blocks drains and litters the streets, every bottle recycled here helps make Accra cleaner. The impact goes beyond the facility walls. In the alleyways of Accra, waste collector Michael Odate throws this ecosystem.
This plastic rubbers, not only this one, then you can collect. Even bottles and things, the other things, you can gain to get money. So I'm telling my friends, other out, say they must come and join us to do this work. Then everybody will get some small money. But when they are outside there and they say government, that government cannot give you work. You must work and find a job to do.
For women like Victoria, recycling is not just survival, it is a source of pride. She still dreams of becoming a nurse or an accountant.
I've also gathered some small money that I'll be using to be buying the goods. Because me working for someone to pay me alone cannot cater for my kids. It will not suffice me. So I decided at least when I have like maybe 1,000, I can buy goods and I can get interest. And through that interest, I can save some and I can also use some to cater for my kids and myself. I wish I can continue with my education. There are works in Ghana that when we do, we can cater for ourselves and our kids without.
Well, meanwhile, the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, has announced plans to implement a comprehensive waste management and recycling plan later this month. The EPA says this will reduce the harm that waste is causing the environment, especially plastic, subsequently banning the product in Ghana. Chief Executive Officer of the EPA, Professor Nanama Brankluche, announced this at the commissioning of the Ketu North EPA office in Georgia.
The World Economic Forum predicts that 16 million tons of plastic waste will enter the Earth's ocean by 2030 if no action is taken. Ghana's water bodies and drains are not spared, as plastic waste is usually not disposed of well, leading to flooding. This informed a decision by the Environmental Protection Authority to ban the product. Professor Nana Amakluche is the Chief Executive Officer of the EPA.
After 5th of June, there will be a lot of activities on plastics. We want to reduce plastic waste in the country because they harm the environment. They are not easily degradable. They are not biodegradable. So when it gets to the soil, it stays there for thousands of years. They don't degrade and they affect the soil. So we want to avoid plastic waste as much as possible in the country. We're trying to ban plastics in Ghana. We want to do it slowly. We first must collect what is in the system, and then we want to provide alternatives to these plastics. Then we can reduce the waste as much as possible.
The EPA is implementing a decentralization exercise. The authority commissioned its first district office in the Ketu North municipality of the Volta region.
It's the first district or municipal office. EPA has regional offices and area offices. But as we are getting to localize or decentralize our activities, we need district office. We know sun winning is an issue here, it's a challenge here. We are appealing to the chiefs and elders and communities to also guide against environmental degradation through sun winning in this constituency.
The Member of Parliament for Ketu North, Edem Agbana, believes the provision of the EPA office would enhance regulation in his jurisdiction.
Many of the people obtaining even building permits do not have the EPA permit because there was a challenge with the proximity to the offices where they could acquire or they could get assistance to acquire those permits. But with this office being the very first district office for the EPA, it's an honor that we are putting in motion. We are putting in motion a vision that we believe will yield enormous benefit to the good people of Ketu North and to Ghana as well.
The team earlier educated students of the Wovenu and Chujepeni senior high schools
on the need to protect the environment and plant trees. There were symbolic tree planting by Mr. Agbana and Professor Kluche ahead of the World Environmental Day celebration on 5th June 2025. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Joje.
And Water Aid Ghana, in partnership with Guinness, Ghana has also commissioned 2 water expansion projects in Nandoli and Nandon towns that can produce 200,000 cubic meters of water annually. Guinness Ghana Bureau for the past 5 years has commissioned 13 of such water facilities in the country. These projects will boost water supply in the respective towns. Rafiq Salam reports.
The Nandoli Township is one of the fastest growing towns in the Upper West region. Out of a population of 86,000 people that resides in the Nandoli-Keleo district, 6,201 are located here at Nandoli. The Greater Nandoli Enclave depends on the Community Water and Sanitation Agency, CWSA, for water. They have an 80 cubic meter capacity overhead tank that supplies water to 530 domestic customers and 12 standpipes. The daily demand of water consumption in the area has far outweighed the capacity of the water pumped daily from the high-rising tank. As a result, water supply here is erratic as it's been rationed. All, however, will be a thing of the past. Water Aid Ghana, in partnership with Guinness Ghana Breweries PLC, in collaboration with CWSA and the Nandoli-Keleo District Assembly, will support from Interplus Limited, commissioned the Nandoli Water Expansion Project. Under the Water for Life project, 2 towns in the Upper West region, namely Nandoli and Nandom, have their water supply systems expanded to enable them pump 200,000 cubic meters of water. The project will serve over 88,000 people in the 2 towns. Water Aid Country Director Ibrahim Fanyi Akofol threw further light on the projects.
The focus of this project is really making sure that we are supporting CWSA and our local authorities to provide water, safe drinking water for everybody everywhere. And this year we've done this water expansion with CWSA in 2 locations, that is the Nandom and the Nandoli. Altogether we are expanding about 200,000 cubic meters of water to 80,000 people in these regions. The hope is that through this project, people will have access to water every day. Young children, of course, don't have to journey for hours to get water before they go to school. Households will have access to water to cook, to bath, to do their household chores. But most importantly, our healthcare facilities that also access water from CWSA will have adequate water to enable them manage their wash, infection prevention and control at the facility.
Corporate Relations Director for Guinness Ghana Breweries PLC, Sylvia Uso Ankoma, disclosed that for the past 5 years, her outfit has identified communities that have challenges with water, with a commitment that they provide them with clean drinking water and also equip them with water, sanitation, and health education to ensure that it is a priority for the communities.
13 of these projects have been commissioned across Ghana, mostly in the Upper East, Upper West region. And we've been very deliberate in choosing these communities because they also fall within communities where we source our local raw materials, which is sorghum and maize from these communities. Guinness Ghana turns 65 this year, and it's also our commitment that for the next 65 years we'll continue to partner with our communities, ensure that their livelihoods are improved and that it's a shared growth for all of us to develop Ghana.
She noted that the project is also a way of showing their appreciation and to say thank you to the communities that they are getting their raw materials from.
We think in communities where we source our raw materials, we sell our products, we manufacture our products, we ensure that there's end-to-end sustainability. We call it grain-to-glass sustainability. We source our grain, we produce our grains into products that our consumers then get to enjoy, the beautiful products that you experience ingredients from Guinness Ghana, which are all locally manufactured from our Guinness Extra Foreign Stout, Malta Guinness, Star, ABC, and all the other products that you know from Guinness Ghana.
The rationing of water from the water systems here does not only affect the lives of domestic consumers, but critical health and emergency services as well. One of them is the Nodule Sub-Health Center.
We are told that this health center for days could go without water, and this water tank currently placed here could be weeks without water. But thanks to this new project that was commissioned in the community, they can now boast of water. You can see clearly that anytime that they want water, they have it right at their doorstep.
I am so overwhelmed, because when you look at it, we have filled our reservoir to the brim. If you go inside the facility, we have filled all our containers. As of now, the water is still running. So I'm so happy.
Nadulu West Systems Manager of CWSA, Abdul Salam Murtada, is excited that with the coming into being of an additional water tank, it will enable them not only to be water sufficient, but to extend it to upland areas as well.
I'm quite sure we'll be having a lot of water to be able to push this particular kind of water, to be able to push water to the upland areas. Definitely, I know it will be some kind of relief to the people in Nadoli, because sometimes for a full day or two, you will not be having water. But through this collaboration between Guinness Ghana and Water Aid, I'm quite sure that we are going to improve on the production of water, and we will be able to distribute water to the needed community.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam, Nadoli.
Right, and that's how we end today's edition of The Pulse. For more stories, log on to our website, myjoyonline.com. Dr. Matthew Poku Prempe, that's the former Education Minister, confirms NIB interrogation over his tenure as the Minister for Education. Wuntumi Aid, convicted in Galamsey bribery case, fined 200,000 Ghana cedis. Minority vows to resist return, rerun of Ablekuma North. And we heard Dr. Komna who is backing the 1 Ghana cedi for levy, but says it shouldn't be in isolation. And Dr. Baumia has also been talking about that particular matter. Well, folks, that's our show for today. We shall be here tomorrow same time. But whatever you are up to in the hours ahead, I hope it's profitable. My name is Elton Robbie. Have a good evening and take care.